Bruce Friedrich has been a vegan for 30 years, but he has newly been using the flavor of flesh once again. The burgers he has been tucking in include been outlined by draft gates as this next of meal, laboratory-grown flesh called of the cells of animals. Mr. Friedrich was at the TED, Technique, Amusement and Style, meeting to say on how laboratory-grown flesh could nourish an always increasing people and resolve ecological issues. The company for flesh was as well in Vancouver to offer convention delegates a flavor of its factory-based flesh replace. For flesh, on in silica Vale company Unfeasible Foods, are already offer factory-based flesh alternatives, but down there are many decades of firms experimenting in evolving flesh means that conducted the cells of residing animals and grows flesh of them. Mr. Friedrich thinks the General Social will get there at first flavor of cage-based flesh in 2020 yet, initially at low, will include to pay a price of about $50, £38. The founding member of the Nice Meal Institution, an organization support the creative factory and cage-based flesh, has been one of the year's TED Fellows. His Believe Pod has plowed £, in 14 projects that are evolving ways to increase flesh and scope it up to massive manufacture, and hoping to get the cost tag downward in the trial. We increase a large sum of cereal fare to nourish farmer animals. For each niner amount of calories we put in a chick we get 1 calorie of. It is a extremely ineffective way to build meal, he told. Or it is alleged how we requirement to ensure among 70% and 100% more than flesh by 2050. The demands of an always growing people, linked in the ecological effect of intense agriculture, tool farmers include to see at option ways of making flesh, he told. We are not departure to changing humane environment, so we fair include to changing the flesh, told Mr. Friedrich. And the new age of artificial flesh has slight to do in vegetarian. We listen vegetarians say how they don't wish to eat these means, and we tell, partially joke, how we very don't thoroughness which vegetarians believe of it, he told. The is not yet else vegetarian hamburger. A pure flesh farmer will see really various, more than love a brewing plant rather than a farmer, and would not need any animals, told Mr. Friedrich. The cells of the animals would be immortalized in cage banks, he explainable. It would need 99% less than earth, that tool how farmers can go off of the receive big or get of theoretical of agriculture. Down there would yet be farmer sanctuaries wherever animals could dwell out their lives. Conventional cereal love pearl millet might see a return, and farmers would be capable to job more than in melody in the ground. The may appear love an idealized type of the next to several, but already flesh alternatives are departure massive marketplace. A vegetarian worst coil startup at UK bakehouse Greggs in January inflicted a turmoil of headlines and a peak in the business's profits. Meantime, Hamburger Tsar is trialing its unfeasible Hulk in 59 restaurants in the US in plans to coil them out through the nation. Hamburger Tsar's new vegetarian hamburger is done by Unfeasible Foods, that develops factory-based means how copy both of the flavor and pattern of actual flesh. Its open secret component is heme, and ferrous containing molecular how is credited by several in giver flesh its fleshy flavor. Up header to the TED meeting in Vancouver, I took a bypass to a small restaurant named Encounter in the town's renowned Gastown area. It is one of a circuit of places serving for flesh burgers. As a pescatarian who had not corroded flesh for 20 years, there was a new problem. At first examination, the flesh has the pattern of the actual item, but it was difficult to say if it was really fleshy, due to the sum of decorate in the hamburger. The small restaurant was packed in diners, all of whom seemed to be using the factory-based flesh. After, at TED, I trapped up in the business over the hamburger and had else flavor of their food, the period fare a bare hamburger pure in dressing or lettuce. It doesn't flavor love corn, the flesh option I am largest known in, but it doesn't completely flavor love my ram of flesh each. I enjoyed it yet, as Mr. Friedrich points of, I am not the goal auditorium. How confident flesh eaters will be, I am not so certainly. both of unfeasible foods and for flesh now evolve factory-based flesh, but down there are as well many decades of firms work on laboratory-based flesh in Europe, the US, China, Japan and Israel. And regulators are start to know how they requirement to act a portion, told Mr. Friedrich. In March, the U.S. Meal and Narcotic Authority manufactured a memo of insight on how it would govern the born production in cooperation in the U.S. Division of Farming, setting it on a more than equivalent basis in more than conventional meal stuffs. In countries how include meal safety issues, or those, love India and China, that include to nourish extensive populations, Mr. Friedrich anticipates how regulators will coil out the red rug to firms offer laboratory-based flesh. The Draft and Melinda Gates basis has marked cell farming as one of the 5 meal technologies how could give on actual changing in evolving planet. But not everyone will be connecting the coup. We greet any reducing in pet affliction, but we can't supporting pure flesh as animals are yet utilized in its manufacture, until these means involve starter motor cells obtained of animals, they aren't vegetarian.